Why didn't Voldemort create new Horcruxes? This question haunts fans. He craved immortality, tore his soul apart, and built the perfect defense system. But when his Horcruxes started getting destroyed, why didn't he make new ones? He had the opportunity. Or did he? Creating a Horcrux isn't just a spell. It requires murder and a complex ritual. Perhaps it demanded specific conditions, rare knowledge. Voldemort had little time left. He couldn't just create a new Horcrux whenever he wanted. Overconfidence played a role as well. Voldemort saw himself as invincible. Even after the diary was destroyed, he didn't take it seriously. He believed no one could eliminate all his Horcruxes. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late. Or maybe he simply couldn't. Voldemort's soul was unstable. He himself admitted that every split weakened him. Another fragmentation might have killed him. By the final battle, he relied on an artificial body. A new Horcrux could have been his end rather than his salvation. There's another detail. Horcruxes didn't just protect him, they tied him to the world. But Voldemort couldn't control them. If a new Horcrux fell into the wrong hands, it would have been a weakness, not an advantage. But even knowing he was dying, why didn't he try? The answer may lie not in magical logic, but in narrative logic. Rowling created a powerful villain, but he needed to lose. If he could have made another Horcrux, the story wouldn't have reached its climax. But imagine if he had made a new Horcrux. What object would he have chosen? Whom would he have killed? Or did he simply not dare? Perhaps he feared not death, but what would happen to his soul if he tore it apart once more?
What do you think? Why didn't he create a new Horcrux?
Perhaps the answer lies deeper. Voldemort didn't just fail to create a new Horcrux, he didn't even try. This is strange for someone obsessed with immortality. He meticulously planned his protection in advance, hid his Horcruxes in carefully chosen locations, and sought out artifacts with historical significance. But as soon as his system began to collapse, he made no attempt to restore it. Why? One possible answer is panic. Voldemort always acted with calculation and cold precision. He planned years ahead, but when his Horcruxes started disappearing, he lost control. His attack on Hogwarts was no longer a brilliant multi-layered strategy, but a desperate attempt to crush resistance with brute force. He was no longer thinking about long-term security. He wanted to destroy Harry Potter once and for all. To him, victory seemed like the best way to ensure his survival. But even if we accept that he had no time, why didn't he prepare a backup plan? Perhaps he simply didn't believe it was necessary. Deep down, he was convinced that no one could reach all of his Horcruxes. He saw no point in making new ones. To him, the destruction of one or two Horcruxes was not a threat, just an inconvenience. He was certain his defenses were still working. Even when he sensed that something was changing, he didn't immediately grasp the full extent of the danger. And what if fear played a role? Voldemort never admitted weakness, not even to himself. But he understood that his soul had already been torn into too many pieces. He himself said he had become less than human. What if creating another Horcrux would have truly destroyed him? Perhaps he felt himself growing weaker with each loss, but refused to acknowledge it. Because doing so would mean admitting his plan was flawed. Moreover, creating a new Horcrux required another murder. Of course, killing was never an issue for Voldemort, but there's a possibility that the process itself became increasingly difficult. Magic often follows rules that cannot be broken. He didn't create 6 Horcruxes instead of 10 or 15 just by chance. Perhaps magic no longer allowed him to split his soul further, or maybe he was already so damaged that another split would have led to his immediate destruction. But imagine if he had tried. What object would he have chosen? Voldemort loved symbolism. He sought out meaningful objects. Maybe he would have made a Horcrux out of his wand, combining his power into a single artifact. Or perhaps he would have chosen something unexpected, something indestructible. A living person, perhaps. And what if he had used himself? Theoretically, if he had found a way to embed a piece of his soul within his own body, it might have granted him invulnerability. Or, on the contrary, it could have made him even more vulnerable. Perhaps it was precisely the fear of this risk that stopped him. Either way, the fact remains, he never created a new Horcrux. Maybe he simply ran out of time.